So, hello guys, our topic for today is all about the paraffin test and the gunpowder residue. So, for the lesson content, describe the chemistry of the gunpowder and why do so many terror groups can easily make their own IED, and explain where and how does the shooter get the gunpowder residue, to describe how gunpowder residue can be detected, and explain the different tests for the determining presence of nitrates and lead. And last is to describe the procedures on how will you conduct a paraffin test. So, I'm Danica Santos from the section of 33A2-1. So, let's start. Describe the chemistry of a gunpowder and why do so many terror groups can easily make their own IED. So, the gunpowder is an explosive which is consisting of the gunpowder or the powdered mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal, the earliest known propellant explosive. So, the gunpowder has now largely been suppressed by the high explosive. Although it was still used in quarrying, blasting, and impulses, the most commonly is the fireworks. So the gunpowder can explode also. And historians believe that the gunpowder was originated in the country of China. It is easy for the terror to make their own IED or in the improvised explosive devices because it is easy to do as you can make it in the home. And the chemical needed was easy to have, and it was easy for them to create their own homemade IAD. So that's why it was easy for them to use because those formula or the ingredients uses for the making was so easy to have and easy to to have. So next is to explain and how does the shooter get the gunpowder residue. So when a gun was fired, the gunshot residue particles or maybe a small particles produced during the gunpowder explosions are emitted from the back of the weapon and the back of the muzzle. So these particles was fly into the skins or to the clothing of the person who's holding a gun, and when the firearm is discharged, these particles are ejected from the cylinder gaps, ejector force, and to the end of the barrel, resulting the flame of residue in the air around the gun. This residue can land on nearby surface and objects, so including the hands of the shooters. That's how they get the gunpowder residue. So next is to describe how gunpowder residue can be detected and to explain the different tests for the determining the presence of the nitrates and lead. So when a gun was fired, so the gunshot residue has contained the burned particles, which is the potassium nitrates, and some are the unburned particles, which called the potassium nitrates. And for the decades, the criminal investigators has been collected these particles by the applying a melted paraffin wax to the subjected hands. So upon the removal of this wax gas, a reagent was containing the phenylamine and the sulfuric acid where they use it. To determine the presence of the nitrates and the ion, they use the diphenylamine as a wet chemical test for the presence of the nitrates ions. In this test, a solution of the diphenylamine and the ammonium chloride is in sulfuric acid used. In the presence of the nitrates, diphenylamine is the oxidized and giving a blue coloration. So next is to describe the procedures on how will you conduct the paraffin test. So the paraffin test is the method of the finding the gunshot residue in the hands of the possible shooting suspect. The tester will going to dip the suspect hands in the short of the melted wax. The wax was already cooled down, or when the wax was cooled down already, the suspect will left with the lovely white gloves. Then the wax is going to fill out from the hands, and it will going to examine for the flecks of evidence that he has shot a gun. So after putting the wax or the melted wax to the hands of the suspected, so they will going to put the lovely white gloves and gently peel off this melted wax through the hands of the suspected. So dito po nagtatapos ang aking report. Thank you.